share recording. And we are live. Let's start with this.
People of Wyoming who are electing a congressperson to fight for them and to fight against the Biden agenda, why wouldn't they say, is this the person that's going to get it done? That's what your colleagues are asking.
I'm going to answer the question. We all have an obligation, and I would say Fox News especially Fox News, has a particular obligation to make sure people know the election wasn't stolen. Fox News, Brett, I'm going to answer your question. Fox News needs to make sure that the American people, they need to make sure that the American people, Brett, you're doing the interview, I'm answering the questions. We need to make sure that the American people recognize and understand that the election wasn't stolen, that we shouldn't perpetuate the big lie, and that there's real danger. You know, I've worked in countries around the world where we don't have peaceful transitions of power. And all of us who are elected officials have got to make sure that we obey and abide by the oath that we swore to the Constitution.
I understand.
And that the peaceful transition of power is key to that. Now, if you're asking me about my constituents believe firmly in the rule of law. They believe firmly in the Constitution. They know that we do not swear allegiance to any individual, and that it's crucially important.
And you've made this point.
I'm going to make another point. It's crucially important if we want to be able to defeat the really bad Biden policies. We have to attract voters back to us. We have to be able to attract the voters who left us by making clear we know the election wasn't stolen, and we are going to abide by the rule of law.
Oh, what fun. Oh, what fun. It's fucking third episode we're talking about this stupid... okay. Do you know what the big lie is, Caitlin? You know what the big fucking lie? Ring any bells? Russian collusion.
Oh, okay.
The Russians hacked the election.
How about that Al Gore won in the 2000 election? That's a big lie.
Yeah. See,
John Kerry won in 2004.
Yeah.
Because of Ohio. That's a big lie.
See, the problem, Liz, is we heard for 4 years that bullshit. Okay? They never apologized. They totally believe it. They couldn't get over the fact that Hillary Clinton sucked as a candidate, as a human being, and everywhere in between. And she lost, and Trump beat her. And they couldn't accept it, like a lot of people on the right can't accept that Trump lost this time. And people go, how'd Biden get 80? Nobody voted 81 million votes for Biden? No, 81 million votes against Trump. That's why. They didn't like him that much. Now, there were all kinds of problems. Yes, there were. But he still lost legitimately. Now, the big lie that Rachel Maddow never apologized for, my Congresswoman Katherine Clark, who didn't show up to the inauguration, never apologized for saying that Donald Trump was an illegitimate president. Ayanna Pressley, who would never even refer to him as the President of the United States. Just the man that occupied that office or some stupid shit like that. We've had to deal with these children for 4 years. And since they never have to apologize and they never have to say they're sorry or never change what they do or have some big reconciliation that you're looking to have, Congresswoman, we're not going to either. We're not going to either. And it doesn't matter that it happened on January 6th, and everybody will be prosecuted for January 6th, as they should have. And more people, honestly, if they were causing that violence, see, I'm the kind of Republican that would have said, you know what, you stormed the Capitol, they should shoot you immediately. And I would have had no problems with that, because you don't do those things. Now, this woman, this is coming from somewhere. We've talked about this before. This is coming from somewhere. It's more than just I want to clear the air here and move the Republican Party forward. This is being pushed.
Yes. I mean, it clearly is. Like, I don't know what else to say here. And considering the fact, like, what came out with, Evan McMullin's nonsense today, and we'll get to that. But yeah, it's being pushed. It's being very oppositional. And what I'm seeing from this is basically two sides that kind of want to divide and conquer to see who becomes the predominant part of, I guess, leaders of the party, right? Like,
Yeah.
and Jeff, you and I are kind of in the middle and moderate, like on that, I think. Do you know what I mean?
On that issue, yeah.
Yeah, on that, I'm in the middle of like being like, please, children, stop.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we want to move on to the issues. Like, Biden's
we want to
not doing
beat Biden.
well.
We want the gas shortages to end. We want inflation to stop. We want the border to be secure. We want some semblance of peace in the Middle East. Actual things,
And
not
the
feelings.
shit-
Not feelings.
The shit hit the fan for the Biden administration this week, and this is what we're talking about because we feel that we need to discuss this drama because it's starting to get very old news, and it needs to just move. We need to move on. It's May 13th. Let's move on from this.
There's a way to handle this, right? So, if you're in a position of power, in a position of influence, or in some sort of position of authority, and people are like, the election was stolen, and there was massive fraud, and they switched 2 million votes, and whatever Linwood is crowing about in South Carolina, the cuckoo bird, whatever he's saying, doesn't. You say, no, he's wrong. Biden won legitimately because a ton of people hated Trump, and that's why he lost, and you hit it back. You hit back. You push back. You don't take the offense and say, now sit down, everybody. We have to have a big feelings circle and figure this all out and come to confession, and there's this perpetual, I don't know, circle jerk about January 6th and the 2 months after the election. No, we're done. It happened. It's over. It's over. The people who rioted are going to go to jail. Trump will probably not run again. And even if he runs again, I'm not quite sure he'll get the nomination. But he's the favorite right now. So you're just going to have to deal with it. You're just going to have to deal with life and stop trying to be master of the universe and control all this shit because you can't. And you're making it worse for yourself. Here's the big thing. You're making it worse for yourself. You're putting yourself on the outs. You're turning into Tom Nichols. You're turning into Bill Kristol. You're turning into all these people who are slowly being peeled away as irrelevant and nobody's going to listen to you except the liberals who pat you on the head and maybe give you 5 seconds of airtime on MSNBC. You're failing.
Yeah.
They don't grasp this. Who do you think's driving it? I mean, I like your idea that this is a split. They want to take back control of the party.
I think that this is, I do think that this is a power grab and I'm not going to say like any political ideology. I think it's Liz Cheney and it's driven by people who are aligned with like Bill Kristol and all of them. I mean, if we look at like Evan McMullin's like bullshit he put out today, I think that's really what's driving it. Okay. My big thing with Liz Cheney and what her exchange with Brett Baier is Brett Baier's point is that, are you representing the voters of Wyoming well right now? And I think he had a larger point he probably wanted to get to because she, I think, was censured by the state party. Whether or not that's merited, that's fine. Okay. Those are your voters. I don't believe in the noble lie theory at all. You should represent your voters and what you were sent to Washington to do, not the other way around. That doesn't mean that they're asking you to lie. That means they're asking for you to represent them. Okay. And she's not handling that difference very well.
Or intentionally ignoring the difference.
I think
she's smart. She's smart enough to know.
Okay, so Liz Cheney primaried Mike Enzi in 2014. So and she lost that primary. So I'm like, I don't know. I am hot and cold with her all the time based on that. think that she has leadership material going forward in the future. And I think she's being, again, as we're kind of mentioning, being pushed forward into this role. So yeah, that's my personal opinion on it.
It was a crappy week for the Biden administration.
It was, I mean, shit
and
hit the fan. Yeah.
We're talking about this.
Week 3 of Liz Cheney.
This. And it's, people were saying like, nobody cares. Nobody in the real world gives a flying fuck about this.
A Latino mom in the Rio Grande Valley in Texas is not really going to give a shit about Liz Cheney. She's going to care about inflation when the prices of essential items goes up 20%. That's what she's going to care about. She's gonna care about the immigration crisis that's in her backyard. So why are we talking about Liz Cheney?
There is, I'm bothered by this because more and more people who I'm losing quite a bit of respect for aren't getting this. I forget if we talked about the Kevin Williamson piece last week. I think we did.
I think we addressed it, not super in depth.
Not directly, at least we had the response, and we have Jay Nordlinger, who is I should have tagged him in the broadcast. Maybe you can tag him in a quote tweet. Jay Nordlinger, who's the publisher of NRO. Believe it or not, Jeb Bush, of all people, pushing back and saying, no, this comes from the ground grassroots and the ground up, not this DC bubble nonsense. And kudos to Jeb for saying that.
I think Jeb gets it though, right? Because Jeb was a governor. Okay. He wasn't really, he was sort of in the swamp, kind of, sort of. I think it's fair to say that. But when you're governor of a state, I think you're a little bit more removed and you can see kind of almost everything at the same time.
You have to run the state.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love governors as presidents, so yeah.
They make very good presidents. They make better presidents.
Yeah, because they have the executive experience. But when Jeb Bush is saying that, I mean, Jeb Bush of all people, he's a Bush. He's in with all of that gang. Like, when he's saying this kind of stuff, maybe you need to kind of look in the mirror and see that this petty squabble, like, is that really what's driving clicks and likes? Like, is that really worth what you want to be remembered for versus, I don't know, interesting policy discussions or philosophy pieces? Like, that's one of the things that's like with NRO, and I do love NRO. I subscribe and I get print copy, okay? It's either half of like that kind of like still discussing Trump and everyone's still mad about Trump online, and then you have like good writers who are focusing on policy. Like,
yeah.
So,
well, let me say this. Kevin Williamson is perhaps the best writer in that class of writers, political, of his generation. He's that good, but he's just wrong on this. He's just wrong on this one with Cheney. That's it.
It's very angry. It's like, dude, chill. Like, we can read your tone, okay? Like, we get it. You're mad.
I hope he has a Twitter burner account too. I think it follows me. He used to. Funny thing is, before he quit Twitter, he followed me like a couple of days, and then he quit Twitter. So I don't know. Coincidence? I don't know. Maybe he just like something I said was the final straw. But I was so bummed out when it came out. He's like, I'm done with Twitter. Like, oh man, you just followed me. Shit. Yeah, I don't know where we go from here because this type of stuff. The problem is the enemies in mainstream media, corporate media, are still going to push this because it gets likes and clicks and headlines. And on the left side of it, like CNN, MSNBC, the three big networks, the major papers, they don't want to cover the gas shortage that they don't think is happening, or the border crisis that doesn't exist, or inflation that doesn't count because you're not including food and energy. I mean, like,
yeah, I think it was Newsbusters actually who actually had to watch reliable sources. God bless him for wanting to sit through Brian Selter for at least an hour, where he mentioned Liz like 300 times and saying about like any real news.
No, it's pathetic, and I don't know what the fuck is Evan McMullin doing. First of all, I remember that guy when he came out. I was like, in 2016 or whatever, he's supposed to be this conservative, principled choice, former intelligence officer or whatever the fuck he was.
That.
You know, conservative. I'm like, okay, I'll take your word out of it. Complete fucking squish grifter. And, you know, it's just like...
I didn't vote for him in 2016. I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull the lever for him. Something about him, just like, I couldn't do it. Something about him was not right. I don't know.
Well, that turned out to be true. Yeah. Something isn't right. Yeah. It was a play.
From him. Just like, even like you get that with Trump, right? Like, you know that he's a businessman, high level one. You've had to make some like crazy ass decisions. He's done some crazy ass shit. But with Evan McMullin, there was just something with him that I was just like, nope.
Yeah. No.
And I voted for Kasich in the primary. I am ashamed to say.
Oh, gross. I didn't know you did that. I at least voted for Rubio.
Yes, I
did. What was I going to say here? So, what is he trying to form a third party, or what are they trying to do? A bunch of other squishes are going to try to form some third party.
So essentially, what they did, it was like him and 150 other people. It was like Miles Taylor, the guy who was the anonymous guy who worked at DHS. I don't think Crystal signed it. It was like Mayo and others. They were like, if the GOP doesn't change, we're gonna leave and make a third party or something. And it
was just a threat.
Yeah, it was basically a huge threat. Signatures of 150 people that don't fucking matter to any voters. Like, can you imagine some Republican voter out in Nebraska being like, who the fuck is Evan McMullin?
Bye.
Like, you know what I like?
Take care, brush your hair. It's just like these people, like, you know, George Will left the Republican Party. Okay. That sucks. He was a good writer. Appeared to be staunch conservative. It's just like, I cannot be be amongst this crowd. Well, like, who the fuck are you, man? Like, stick around and fight. Like, stick around and fight. Don't and I hate to make it to this, but it's like, don't be a pussy. Like, I'm in it. Like, I know I'm sticking around. I'm gonna fight for what I'm gonna tell you you're wrong when you're wrong. And I'm gonna have your back when you're right. And you know, that's what kind of friends do. Like, good friends will, like, if you screw up, good friends will say, hey, look, you're screwing up right now. Get your shit together. Or good friends will have your back in a fight. Good friends don't go, well, I didn't like the way you acted. And or silently just go, you know what, I'm gonna tell everybody else that I'm not friends with you anymore. Like, that's a bitch move to make, and you don't make that move. And what you do is you confront the person and you say, this isn't right. I'm standing up to you. I'm going to call you on it, and I'm going to stick around. And you know what? The people who ditch, the people who bail, those are liberals. Those are liberals who can't be amongst people who voted for Donald Trump. Those are the people of lower character who have to put politics before other things. Now, granted, we're in the world of politics, but you stick around. If you don't like something, fight for what you like. I'm tired of the Tom Nicholses of the world and the rest of the dipshit gang that turned out to, like, magically became super liberal overnight, because then they still claim to be conservative with this nonsense. And Evan McMullin, I guess, I forget about him. I'll forget about him tomorrow. He pops up every 6 months like a bad freckle.
My biggest point here, and I actually tweeted about this today, is that I'm a conservative. It's worth it. I vote Republican. I am not going to give up on those principles and cut and run because of someone else I don't like within the party. automatically. What I will do is treat it like an adult. And if I disagree with them, I will disagree with them and openly. But I'm not going to cut and run. The principles and the values are way too important.
The Republican Party is the only mechanism to keep America in some semblance of order, peace, prosperity, and tranquility.
Right.
That's it. That's it. If you're watching this, you need to accept that fact, okay? The Democratic Party is gone. They're not going to become blue dogs. It's over. It is just a question of how fast it happens for them.
Right. They are very much inching towards UK labor. That's what they're inching towards. That's scary to me.
They will be, and the problem is they'll have a lot more power than UK labor. We can get into long-term stuff in a second, but the Republican Party is the only vehicle, the only mechanism to stop them and keep America a constitutional republic. Okay? That's it. So accept that fact, deal with it, get in the fight, don't become an independent and brag about it to all your friends so you can say, look, I'm not one of them. Say what you say.
I'm an independent. The right is so corrupt and rotted.
I'll tell you one thing. That is one of the most annoying things in the world. That people, well, both sides are awful, man. And I hate both parties, man. It's like, shut up. Who are you? Oh, big insight. Oh, freaking Plato over here. We got the multiple, the philosopher king you are. Oh, it's both parties are at fault, man. No, not really. No, not really. The left is pushing critical race theory. The Democrats are pushing intersectionality into every crack of our society. The Democrats want government to take over more and more aspects of your life. Like the only mechanism to stop that is the Republican Party. Stop telling me that it's both sides. It's not both sides. There's one political mindset that is making people miserable all over the world, and it's not the Republican Party.
Right.
Sorry.
I mean, right. No.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, you don't have to apologize because I completely agree. Because I think the both sides argument, and I've said this before on Twitter, is one of the laziest fucking arguments that you could possibly make. Yeah. Take a position and defend it. Your position is not both sides. Your position is one side, but you're saying both sides because you're being lazy and you're also being a coward. So take a position and defend.
Yeah. If you think you're going to get credit when you say that, no, you're just going to like nobody will respect you on either side of it.
Right. Well, it's like people on the right trying to like pander to libs. It's like, here's your cookie. No.
It will never end. It will never end. And I am after, and this is a good segue into our next topic for the regular episode. And it's because it's, I will never allow with whatever power I have or influence I have, which is very small, the people that would not hug their parents during the pandemic to have political power and make laws and can change my life. There are people out there like I follow them on Twitter. There are a lot of Massachusetts liberals, and they're like, I finally get to hug my parents again. Like, you weren't hugging your parents during the pandemic. You weren't going to them. It's like you could have followed the science and like gotten tested, stayed away from people. Like during the height of it, stayed away from people for a week or two, gotten tested, been fine, been like, hey, mom and dad, I'm good. I got tested. Give me a hug. Haven't been around anybody. But the government told you not to. And you were that much of a sheep. I have so little respect for these people that our next topic is it's time to open up. The CDC came out with the guidance to probably that anybody who's been vaccinated fully can be inside without a mask. There are liberals right now who are, well, how do you tell who's vaccinated or not inside?
You mean Nancy Pelosi, who said that directly?
All of them. And they're like, yeah, good point. How do you tell? It's like, you don't tell because it doesn't matter.
Well, if you're vaccinated, it doesn't
because
fucking matter.
you got fucking vaccinated. You got fucking vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, you're fine. So you don't have to worry about anybody else. You don't. You don't. That's the point of getting vaccinated, you morons. They care more about controlling other people's lives than the science behind this deadly pandemic and moving on so people can go back to normal. They care more about that. They want to run everything. They want to ruin you and control you and do. It is ridiculous. There's a dozen of them right now in like prominent, relatively influential Massachusetts liberals who are like, well, how do we tell who's been vaccinated or not?
Well, if you've been vaccinated, it's no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord. Like, okay, so it was right before I jumped on. Actually, it was released that the Capitol Hill resident physician said that, yeah, we're changing our guidelines around the Capitol because of this and the CDC change. Who is the only person that won't change the House floor rules? It's Nancy Pelosi. So she is literally not following CDC guidelines for the purpose now of playing politics over like fucking masks. Everybody is vaccinated. Like you, like this.
They're sitting.
Insane,
yeah,
Jeff.
they were sitting around the White House
yesterday.
McConnell,
yesterday.
McConnell, Pelosi, Schumer, McCarthy, and somebody else. They're sitting around the White House. All of them have been vaccinated for like months, wearing fucking masks. Like, if you want people to get vaccinated, take off your masks and tell them, hey, everybody, I'm vaccinated. Time to take off your mask. But they don't want that. They don't want that. And it's time that my suggestion to if you're on the right, if you're a center right person, we have to stop asking why won't they do this, or I don't understand why won't they do this. Like, remove that from your vocabulary. They are doing this because they want to control you. They want to see how long they'll make you wear that mask for, so they can tell you what to do. So that's it. Just it's as petty as that. And it's like around in Massachusetts. Was it Brookline, which is full of doctors? Brookline, Massachusetts, probably per capita has the most doctors in the state. When Baker lifted the outdoor mask mandate, these idiots, they're like, no, we're going to keep it. No science behind it. None. It is time to open up. It's time to open up everything. It's time to get back to normal.
Yes.
Go get a vaccine.
I mean, the reason why we have inflation right now is because we didn't get back to normal in like January. I mean, but I end us, the stimulus bill they passed in March.
The stimulus that we didn't need. The stimulus that we definitely did.
You mean the stimulus that we haven't even spent yet? Like, that was the thing. That bill was mostly a spending bill for next year. Like, this is going to go into next year. I don't know why people are all of a sudden being like, oh, we're going to open, we're going to be fine. No, we're not. We're going to see ripples of this economically for a long time, I think, or at least a year.
They printed all that money, yeah. Well, they should pull it back somehow. But
they're not going to do it. They're Democrats. The Democrats are in charge. Let it happen. If you let it happen, then that means the adults will get elected. The Republicans will win 2022 midterms, and then they'll start opposing Biden's agenda. But yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, all of a sudden they change it today after you see Nancy Pelosi in that hideous suit, that ugly ass necklace with two masks on, Jeff, yesterday. Two masks.
Double masking, vaccinated. Insane. So what's the likelihood? I mean, even Bill de Blasio said July 1, everything opens up. I don't know if that's with masks or without masks, but I want to put pressure on Governor Baker to be like, yeah, open it up. Everything, just open it up. So I'll do the old McLaughlin group style. Question to you, Caitlin. Does Charlie Baker open up early? Today's May the 13th, by June 1. Open it all up.
I can tweet at him every day. He follows me on Twitter, so.
He still hasn't followed me. I'm crushed. Although I have his phone number. So, you want to call him and find out? Yeah, that won't bother him. He's probably calling the phone company right now and be like, changing his fucking number. So will Charlie Baker open up Massachusetts by June 1?
I don't know. I think that he's been good about not, towing the blue state line. I think he's been good about that, even for better or for worse. And his approval number has been okay since then. We'll see. We might have new guidances tomorrow. I don't even know.
The answer is no. He will not move the deadline or move the opening update to June 1. It'll probably be like more of a loosening of restrictions. But the problem with that, the problem with just kind of peeling it back one layer at a time, is that people are going to still be clinging. And then you have like the society type of thing where it's like, if I want to go in and get my cup of coffee without a mask, it's going to be a problem. Like the thing is, it's like you can go in there without a mask right now if you're fully vaccinated, and scientifically it's okay. And people may start to need to do that just to say, let's move forward.
Yeah.
But there's some person working behind the counter who's going to have to go, oh man, sir, ma'am. It's just like, that's a hassle for them. Like, do you want to create it for them, for the employee? They're sweating their butt off behind that counter, in the mask, breathing heavy, working hard. Like, do you want to be that person? I mean, the customers, it's another thing. I could, care less about some Karen, getting in my face. But, it's going to be a problem for the staff. So, there needs to be some directive from the top that says, all right, enough is enough, and let's let this thing, let's move on with our lives, because it is time.
I agree.
All right.
Today, I do have to say, after the CDC released all of that information, I mean, I'm fully vaccinated, right? I took my mask off inside and I walked around with it and I got some looks. And to be quite honest, like, I just didn't even give a shit.
No,
like,
I think I'm just going to have to go and just do it, because it's just like, I haven't really been anywhere since being, I'm in and out I'm mostly outdoors anyway. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm not like going to too many places indoors.
Right.
So we shall see. Well, that is it for this episode. We're going to switch on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/RhinoPod, patreon.com/RhinoPod, patreon.com/RhinoPod. Join us. It's only $1 a month. It's so cheap. 25 cents an episode, basically, for all the cool stuff that we're going to be covering. We are going to be covering, well, you have to tune into the Patreon and find out. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Caitlin. We shall see what the drama with Liz Cheney plays out, but it needs to be dropped. Just stop it and move on so we can go on to how abysmal the Biden administration is performing. Any last words?
Yeah, I'm just like really done with the fucking drama, so everyone needs to move on from it. Thanks.
Save the drama from your mama. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I got a tissue. Here's a tissue. Bye.
Good night, everybody.